Okay, so this is the first of a series of blog posts I intend to make about our fantasy genre study coming up in March. Now, there are a few rules going into this fantasy blog post that I'd like to make clear from the get-go. First of all, no more than 5 minutes. Second of all, I'm not allowed to do any research. Thirdly, this is being designed primarily for the kids because it's part of a classroom discussion that we had and an activity they took part in. Okay, so first of all, this is a project where we were putting together a glossary of fantasy terms. We're going to be studying fantasy, so it seemed like a really good idea to get a feel for what the kids thought fantasy was before we even started. So I've created an A to Z list of terms and words and names and things that the kids gave me. Okay, so I'm just going to go through the list, 5 minutes, then I got to stop. Okay, here we go. A. First of all, this first item on the list I actually cheated on. It's Anna, which is one of the protagonists from the new Disney movie Frozen, which I have not seen in any way. So when the kids gave me this name, I had no idea what to make of it. I actually had to go to a kid and say, "Who's Anna?" And they had to point out that it's, you know, the plucky, lovable, mortal hero from that film that they enjoy singing along to. So she's really kind of an archetypal hero. In that she has no magical powers. She has no special martial training, like she's not a knight or a soldier or an archer or some other staple of fantasy literature. She's just a random person. And she walks into this adventure, this great quest she's about to embark upon without any knowledge of what she's going up against or what she'll need to do when she gets there. And it reminds me of the tarot card, the Fool. So I'm going to call Anna a member of that that oldest and most famous of all hero archetypes, the Fool. She is protected by her ignorance. She is protected by her childlike innocence. If she had any idea how bad things could possibly get or how much danger she'd be in, she wouldn't go, and she would therefore be unsuccessful on her quest. At the same time, real heroes, you know, ones with magical spells and martial training, you know, knights and whatnot, are drawn to fools, like moths to flames. They see this idiot running off to do something that's impossible, and they're just like, oh, okay, fine. I'll go with you, and I will protect you from the various trolls and ice sorcerers that you might encounter along the way. Also, the Fool tends to have a lot of heart. And I think in the end, a big enduring theme in fantasy is that you have to have a lot of heart and a lot of love in order to overcome the terrible things in the world. T. Next up on my list, I have Apollo. Now, with Apollo, I have lumped in all of the Greek gods because do they really belong in fantasy? To the people who designed these characters, who wrote these stories, they were not they were not mythical. They were not fictional. They were real. They were like real world explanations for why things were the way that they were. So to the authors of these stories, Apollo and the Greek gods and whatnot don't belong in fantasy. Now, when I read Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, though, that definitely has a fantastical feel to it. And we know that the author wrote the stories knowing that the gods were not real. So to them, and to him at least, in his stories, they are an element of fantasy. So I guess where I'm leaving this is, I guess it depends on how they're used. So when you use this, when you read the story about Zeus becoming Lord of the Universe and overthrowing his father Kronos, that's not fantasy, probably. But when somebody else puts Zeus in a random story about kids who go to school, that's fantasy. All right, now I'm at the 4-minute mark, so I'm running out of time. I've only gotten through A. Okay, next we have artifacts. Now these are all listed as things as like wands and shields and rings and swords and whatnot. Enchanted machines, like the Golden Compass. And I lump these all under one heading. The great thing about these tools is that they can be made either contemporarily within the story, like by a character in the story, or even like in antiquity, in ancient times, they could have made this thing that your hero is still interacting with today. And the really great thing about it is that your ignorant, innocent, plucky, fool hero, Anna, can find a magic item, a magic ring, and it suddenly transforms them from being a nobody into a hero. I mean, they have what it takes to be a hero inside, but they just don't have the years of training required to do so. So artifacts are a really great way to bridge that gap within your fantasy. I mean, who wants to take time in their story writing to have their character go to 6 weeks of night boot camp where they learn how to wear armor appropriately and ride horses and fight with a lance? I mean, no one wants to read that story. I'm just saying, magic sword that fights for itself, that's great fun. The flip side of this, of course, is that many of these artifacts are also much more dangerous than the users intend them to be. I mean, of course, the One Ring jumps to mind. You get cursed items. And sometimes they come with great power, but they have great drawbacks. And that makes great storytelling. So I can see why a lot of fantasy uses artifacts. So that's 5 minutes. I'm out of time, and I only got through the letter A. We'll see how long I can keep this up. Have a nice day. Hope you enjoy your break.